A warm welcome to another edition of Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. The South African government continues to explain away that the country is not xenophobic, despite reports online about citizens forcing African migrants from their places of business and their homes, demanding they go back to their countries. And this sense of entitlement and aggression has led to hundreds of people going back to their countries of origin. At an event in Lagos last week, the South African Consul General, Professor Bobby Moreau, said vigilante groups had no right to demand people leave the country and that the South African Constitution protects both South Africans and other nationals.
In South Africa, we have witnessed acts of criminality by vigilante groups calling for illegal migrants to return back home and taking the law into their own hands. But let me be clear, on behalf of my government, the South African Constitution protects both regular and irregular migrants and only complement the law, and only competent law enforcement agencies and immigration officers have the legal standing to deal with migration issues. In Nigeria, we have seen reprisals and pushback as a direct response to what is perceived to be a total onslaught by the South African government against migrants. I can tell you for free, this is fake news. Ladies and gentlemen, in previous years, we sat in this table and we have resolved our differences together. Family does not walk away when it gets difficult. Family leans in, family builds a roof together when it rains. This year marks 32 years of unbroken diplomatic relations between the two nations. This 32 years built not only on paper, but on blood, on solidarity, and on sacrifice. Nigeria stood with us when the world was silent. You funded our freedom. You carried our struggle in your chest with the greatest of pride. Our struggle was your struggle. Our pain was your pain. And indeed, our freedom is your freedom.
To another immigration issue, this was a scene that horrified many in Europe. Hundreds of thousands of people crossing the Mediterranean into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta, a key launch point for attempted crossings by land and sea, overwhelming the enclave. The crisis triggered a diplomatic storm across Europe.
Hundreds of migrants massing in the northern Morocco city of Finidec on the country's Mediterranean coast, just kilometers from Ceuta, made their way into the Spanish enclave last week, triggering concerns of a surge into Europe. Images of the migrants walking unhindered into Ceuta sent shockwaves across Europe, bringing flashbacks to another immigration crisis between 2015 to 2018. Spanish troops almost immediately deployed to Ceuta to contain the migrant surge. The soldiers guarded the shoreline as migrants queued in the water and at the border. Some waded or swam towards the beach, while others were escorted away or seen returning towards Morocco as troops patrolled the coast. Ceuta Regional President Juan Jesus Vivas said around 60,000 people had entered the city within 24 hours. Spain also gave updates on the confirmed death toll to nearly 60. Fury erupted in Ceuta after the unprecedented migrant surge. One resident spoke of people entering the enclave like rivers. Others worried about the sudden arrival. Angry residents turned their fire on Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's government, claiming Madrid should have known the surge was coming. Shopkeepers and cafe workers in central Ceuta said they were forced to shut their businesses or turn customers away. People were seen sitting outside the roadside cafe and shopping inside the convenience store. Meanwhile, anti-migration demonstrators rallied outside the Moroccan consulate in Barcelona on Friday, denouncing the mass arrivals. They called the migrations invasions and shouted insults at the Spanish Prime Minister, Fernando Grande Marlaska, and Morocco's King Mohammed VI. Pedro Sanchez visited Ceuta on Friday and said Spain was working with Morocco to accelerate returns and strengthen the border. Spain's opposition leader, Alberto Núñez Feijóo, blamed the government for the border crisis in Ceuta, claiming it knew about the threat in advance but failed to act. Feijóo accused the government of promoting a permissive migration policy and said it was responsible for protecting Spain's southern frontier. There have been reactions from beyond Spain. Italy temporarily suspended the EU's border-free Schengen arrangement with Spain. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni describing scenes of the migrant surge as shocking. Finland and Denmark backed Italy's move, while Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babis urged a temporary suspension of Spain's Schengen membership. While EU interior ministers intend to meet on the matter via video conference to discuss the issue, the Spanish Prime Minister has called for an urgent meeting to reaffirm that the security of its external borders is a shared responsibility of all member states.
Joining me now is a journalist at Morocco World News, Sarah Soutin. She joins me from Rabat. Sarah, thank you for joining me on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you for having me.
How would you describe Morocco-Spain relations right now? How it's been before, the incident that happened last week, and now, and then Morocco's relations with the rest of Europe?
Well, Morocco and Spain are close neighbors, and they are also major economic partners, important security partners, particularly when it comes to migration, counterterrorism, trade, and regional stability. At the same time, there are, of course, unresolved political and historical issues, especially regarding Ceuta and Melilla in the north. So the relationship is not without tensions, but it is definitely built on strong mutual interest and extensive cooperation, especially in recent years. But more broadly, when it comes to Morocco's relationship with the EU, Morocco has developed really strategic partnerships with several European countries. I mean, Europe is Morocco's largest economic partner, and Morocco plays an important role in Europe's security, energy, migration management, and also connectivity with Africa.
I have read, that Morocco is discussing with Spain as regards, the surge that happened last week. But what is the agreement between the two countries regarding Ceuta and Melilla?
Well, to answer your question, I would like to refer to an analysis recently published by Morocco News' co-founder and political analyst Samir Benis, because it is important to place the recent events within the broader political and historical context between Morocco and Spain relationship. So to put it bluntly, Spain considers the two cities integral parts of its national territory. But in Morocco, Ceuta and Melilla are widely seen as reminders of unfinished colonial history and the persistence of colonial-era territorial arrangements within North African soil. So within Morocco, their status remains an unresolved historical question rather than a matter that is already settled. So this is something that consecutive heads of governments have reiterated. But at the same time, what exists between the two countries is extensive practical cooperation on border management, migration, security, trade, and the movement of people. But this cooperation that's happening between Spain does not mean that Morocco's position on sovereignty has been abandoned.
Right. And Sarah, we're learning that there are economic hardships in Morocco. There have been protests against the situation in the country for a few weeks now. How true is this?
I mean, Morocco does face social and economic hardships like youth unemployment, economic inequality, rising cost of living, especially in recent years, and limited opportunities that affected many people, especially young people and people living in disadvantaged areas. And there have been occasional protests, but nothing really major recently. The only major protests that happened were the Gen Z protests that happened in September 2025. So no major protests happened recently. So what happened in Sipta and this migration crisis was not really directly fueled by any recent large-scale protests that happened.
Finally, before I let you go, Sarah, what has been the government's reaction to these surge of migrants leaving Morocco for Spain, and unfortunately, the at least 60 people who've died, while trying to make the crossover from Morocco to Spain?
Mhm. Well, unfortunately, everything happened very, very quickly, and Moroccan authorities were confronted with a unprecedented and rapidly developing situation involving a really, really large number of people. We're talking about tens of thousands of people, including children, minors. So Morocco definitely faced a difficult choice, either attempting to stop or reverse such large crowds through force, which could create a really risky situation that could lead to injuries and loss of life. I mean, people already unfortunately lost their life. Many people drowned while making that dangerous crossing. So the alternative was to prioritize humanitarian restraint and coordinate closely with Spanish authorities to contain the situation and facilitate returns. I mean, the majority of people who entered Spain or Ceuta through Morocco have already returned. So Morocco, I would say, moved into operational cooperation with Spain. And this response is important because it does not support the theory that's been circulating in the midst of these events that Morocco deliberately orchestrated the crisis as a political pressure tactic. So, because if the objective had been to use migration or Ceuta as leverage, it would be difficult to explain why Moroccan authorities were quick to collaborate with Spanish authorities and facilitate the return of the majority of people who entered Ceuta.
Sarah, thanks again for explaining this to us and for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you.
I also got to discuss the issue of the migrant crossings with immigration and human rights lawyer Dayo Fadina. Joining me now is immigration and human rights lawyer Dayo Fadina. He's speaking to us from London. Dayo, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Do you think that Spain brought upon itself the migrant surge from Morocco because of the Supreme Court ruling in June that allowed in those rescued at sea to be taken to Europe and not to be sent back to Africa where they're coming from?
In point of view, I don't think that Spain actually brought this upon itself. It's a situation where the fact that this ruling, the Supreme Court ruling, stipulated very quite clearly that anybody actually found in the sea should not be sent back to country of origin, particularly Morocco, immediately. That doesn't mean that Spain brought that very particular situation upon itself. I think what really happened was the fact that the moment that Supreme Court pronouncement was made, people now started, misjudging that very particular decision by, sending messages all over the social media to the effect that it seems Spain is now a soft spot for anybody to now be able to travel from Morocco to to Spain, that very small enclave called Ceuta. And for that reason, many people believed that that's the case. And that news actually went spiral all over the internet, social media. The smugglers were also pushing that very particular narrative that that's the case with Spain, that Spain is now a soft spot. Hence the reason why people now decided to, jump into the sea and try to actually swim to Spain, that very particular small enclave. So indeed, no, I would not blame that very particular Supreme Court judgment for what truly and really happened.
My conversation with Dayo Fadina continues after the break. Welcome back. I asked immigration and human rights lawyer Dayo Fadina more questions about how Europe is handling its migration crisis. Let's head back for the response. Yeah, it's funny how they interpreted that, and quite a dangerous move to be swimming, across that rough Mediterranean Sea. But some European countries blame Spain's immigration policies for the chaos that was witnessed last week. This surge of people coming into Spain. Do you think it's fair for them to do this, or could this be blamed on the desperation of those migrants from Morocco?
Well, in the first instance, we need to actually look at the rationale and the drive behind some of these European countries trying to blame Spain for what really happened. We should bear in mind that the Prime Minister of Italy, I think the major critic, I think Melania, her name is, we should bear in mind the fact that elections are looming in Italy very soon. And there's this virulent anti-migration party, gaining support, very, very heavy support in Italy. And the fact that she then decided to intervene the way she did by blaming Spain was quite unfair, really. That shouldn't have been the case at all. We are aware of the fact that all she was trying to do was to play politics with the situation, and France also blaming Spain for what's going on or what went wrong at the point of when people were trying to at least escape to Spain. France was also not right in blaming Spain for what's going on. You see, when we look at so many of these African countries, including Morocco, the standard of living of so many of the youngsters very, very low. The rate of employment in Spain is, I think, about 25% of the Spanish youngsters, the youth, are unemployed. They have no hope. The economic crisis in Morocco is also affecting them. So many of them truly and really just want to get out of that country. But for them to now decide that they now want to start taking that big risk of, jumping into the sea, where indeed about 60,000 or so of them decide to go into, maybe use boats and jump into the sea, trying to actually, swim to Spain. And in the process, so many lives were lost. That wasn't a very, very smart move at all. So I can't really blame against Spain for this. The European countries are also not particularly helpful by, blaming Spain. I think what they should be doing is to actually cooperate with each other to try to curb the problem of illegal migration, where people are so desperate that they will do anything, even at the risk of their lives, to want to go to Spain or any of the other European countries. There should be a form of cooperation between countries, to try to actually stop this type of migration in the first place.
Well, it sounds like you're blaming Morocco for this. I know that there have been some challenging times in Morocco. The government, I think, has been going through a really rough time. There are power outages reported, economic challenges as well. Do you think these are factors that probably helped, make things worse and, triggered this migration into Europe?
Well, we should also, the case still is that this migration problem has been going on for so many years in many of these European countries where people from different parts of Africa, including Morocco, want to move to Europe because of economic problems. So Morocco is not particularly unique, right? With this problem. And in fact, I think the Prime Minister Sanchez, or his name is Sanchez, also
Pedro
made,
Sanchez.
yes, that's it. He actually mentioned very clearly that as far as Morocco is concerned, that he would not blame the Moroccan government at all. That they are trying to actually work with Spain, the Moroccan government, I mean, to find a solution to all this. So he actually stated very clearly that that's not the case. Although the far right in Spain then use that as an opportunity to start attacking Sanchez, making the whole world understand that he's again being very, very soft on immigration, that he's not doing what he has to do to, be very, very tough and just being a weak prime minister. But the fact still remains that, as much as Morocco has so many economic problems, political problems, it's all over Africa. The youngsters want a better life, and they will do all that they can do to get out of that country and try to actually find a safe haven somewhere in Europe. So we cannot particularly blame the Moroccan government for this. Although, yes, they created their own economic problems where when people are not particularly doing well, in any country for that matter, they want to at least find green pasture somewhere else. And that was what I think is happening. But unfortunately, taking chances by risking your lives because you are looking for somewhere better is not a very, very good thing at all. It's not a smart move at all.
Well, some of those European countries, Italy and France, which you so rightly mentioned, even the UK where you are, they're all discussing border controls now because of what happened. Could this be a solution?
Well, many of the European countries have actually discussed border control. They've been doing this for so many years. Well, the point is that the problem is deeper, deeper than just finding solutions or easy solutions. Deeper in the sense that the source of that problem is not being tackled properly, cannot be tackled properly. So whatever solution they provide is always lagging behind the reality of what's on ground in the first place. I can't see any solution to this problem for a very, very long time. And this has been going on, as we very well know, for so many years. 15, 20 years of immigration problems. So it's a conundrum, actually. It's a kind of impasse on, an albatross on the neck of so many European countries. The solution, yes, they've called for a meeting. I think there's going to be a very important meeting on Tuesday, where I think the Italian Prime Minister has called for a meeting of all EU interior ministers to discuss a possibility of resolving this problem. I think what they have in mind is one, that they would try as much as possible to discourage all European countries. I think about 24 of them have signed up for this very particular meeting on Tuesday, that they would try to actually discourage many of these countries from, promulgating policies that would be a kind of pull for people to actually want to go to Europe. To some extent, the Italian Prime Minister and so many other heads of state of European countries are also blaming Spain for regularizing the residence of so many illegal immigrants with undocumented immigrants and to provide them with work visas.
even though the Spanish Prime Minister had already assured them that none of those migrants reached mainland Europe. They still want to
Indeed.
have this meeting. The issue with Ceuta and Melilla, I think it has to do probably with the Dublin regulation, which determines which single member EU country is responsible for processing asylum regulation. I know there was a time after the 2015 surge, 2015 to 2018 migration pool into Europe. The European countries eventually agreed there should be certain, border frontier towns or cities that these migrants could be sent to process their asylum. Wondering how
Indeed.
well that is kept up, and if that is still in force. Is it still, being executed, or what is the situation now?
Well, the situation with that, with the exact situation to do with that solution they came up with some 10, 11 years ago. It worked for a while. I think it's still working, but a very, very, very slow policy, in the sense that many of these European countries within the EU, they are not just cooperative enough to want to make it work and to make it permanent and effective. When we actually talk of for instance, the Dublin Convention they had, of which stated clearly that you claim asylum at your first port of call, and so many of these migrants would then move to other countries.
Right.
But that Dublin Convention is not working, particularly because it's slow. Many people who have now moved to other countries are not ready and prepared to actually go back to the first port of call when they first came into Europe. There's a situation to do with the cooperation of countries amongst themselves. They cannot actually agree. The laws are not enforceable, particularly regularly. Recently there was a poll that was carried out. Well over about, I think, 116 or 111,000, beg your pardon, of people who the countries made requests to return to their country, their first port of call. Of the 111,000, only 16,500 of those requests were were made effective. All the others were not put into effect at all. So that shows the scale of how these rules and laws are not truly and really working, particularly to do with the Dublin Convention.
Dayo Fadina, immigration and human rights lawyer, thank you for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's the program this week. Don't forget to send in your thoughts and comments via social media. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.